Hello there, good evening, how you doing? Autumn has fallen, winter is, well, winter has come just like last time I did one of these. I read far too many disturbing books, and I said that for autumn, no more disturbing books, let's read happy books, let's read enjoyable books. Did I succeed? So first up, we've got The Hound of the Baskervilles by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Classic, read it for my PhD thesis. It's only a tangential relationship. It's Sherlock Holmes though, what's not to like? There's a mystery, there's a big spectral woof woof on the moors, there's an escaped prisoner. It's a classic for a reason. It's a really good read, it's a really enjoyable read. I have read this one before, like 15 years ago, but it was worth going back to, I think. I flippin' loved revisiting this book. Speaking of enjoyable, oof, Rick Riordan. I finally started on the Magnus Chase series and read Sword of Summer, the first one, and The Hammer of Thor, the second one. These are about Magnus, who is homeless. He's the son of the god Frey, and whilst fighting a fire giant, he is killed. Doesn't sound very happy, does it? But he is taken by a Valkyrie up to Valhalla, where he finds he must stop Loki, the trickster god, from escaping his bonds, and he must stop Ragnarok from happening. I preferred the first one to the second one. Is this my favourite of Rick Riordan's series? I'll tell you when I finish them, but as usual, they are very funny, they are very enjoyable. I especially love the way Riordan makes his characters really identifiable, really unique. He's very good at reworking the mythology into the modern world, and he does it in a... Ooh, there's a spider on this book. No, it's a piece of fluff. He's really good at reworking the mythology into the modern world, and that continues here. And I'm looking forwards to reading the final part of this series. Rick Riordan also released another book recently in his Percy Jackson series, Percy Jackson, The Chalice of the Gods. Again, I loved this book. This is classic PJ, this is classic adventure. This is a really nice copy as well. Look at those sprayed edges. Oh. I didn't intend to buy this until it came out in paperback, but it was like half price in Waterstones, so I thought, why not go for it? Might as well. And glad I did. Read it in a few days. In this one, PJ, in order to get into university, has to complete some challenges for the gods to get letters of recommendation so he can get into university. And his first one is he has to find the lost cup of Ganymede, Zeus's cup-bearer. It's very funny, it's very readable, and again, loved it. So if you saw my last video, you'll know that I have recently been to London. I had a fantastic time. I visited like the Tower, did my Richard III outside the Globe, went on a bit of a literary tour, and bought far too many books, including Christopher Isherwood, A Meeting by the River. I intended this to be my holiday reading. Magnus Chase was originally going to be my holiday reading, but I ended up going to London instead of where I wanted to go to originally because of my life being a complete and utter shit show. But Christopher Isherwood, Meeting by the River. The last couple of Isherwood books I've read, I've not really enjoyed that much. That was A Single Man and Mr. Norris Changes Trains. But I did previously enjoy Goodbye to Berlin, the main stories, what's the other one? Christopher and His Kind. Is this on a par with those? It's about Oliver, a young Englishman who is living in a Buddhist monastery and he's about to take his vows to become a Buddhist monk. And he's visited by his brother Patrick, who has a bit of a secret going on. And it's like about the interactions between these two and their struggles to understand each other. It's written partly in the form of letters, partly in the form of diary entries. But it's very readable. It's kind of short as well, but the characters are well written, it's well thought out, it's interesting enough. Can't say I enjoyed it as much as I liked Christopher and His Kind, Goodbye to Berlin, but for what it's worth, this was good. It was nice to read. It was, well, it didn't end up being my holiday reading in the end, and I'll explain that in a second, but yeah, I did enjoy it. Moving on to a book that made me angry, James O'Brien, How They Broke Britain. I wasn't angry because of the book itself, but because of the content. This is about politics and the media in Britain in the last 20 years or so, maybe a little bit before that. This book is a charge sheet, a compendium of poor behaviour and bad actors. I wanted to identify the people and organisations which, sometimes by accident and sometimes quite deliberately, set the United Kingdom on a course of unnecessary decline. Flipping heck. This is, I think, necessary reading. If you want to understand why Britain is the way it is today, why my local high street has one clothes shop left and the rest are all just boarded up and I have to go 20 miles if I want to buy like a new book, for instance. This explains why. It's necessary reading, and the chapter that angered me most was the chapter on David Cameron. I'm not going into politics now, but it really angered me. And the reason why was basically reinforced a couple of days later when he became Did I enjoy the book though? Oh, it was fascinating reading. It was fascinating reading. It was infuriating. It was... Can I say I enjoyed the book? don't think it's a book I would read for pleasure. It's a book that needs to be read. It's a book that should be read. It's a book we should hit David Cameron over the head with. And other people as well, let's not go there. But it's not a book I'd read for pleasure. Another London book, I went to the famous gay queer bookshop, and I got Bored Gay Werewolf by Tony Santorella. I realised I'm not allowed to say the word gay. YouTube basically suppresses all videos with the word. So I read Bored Werewolf by Tony Santorella. The whole werewolf thing is more tangential to the story. It's more a story of toxic masculinity. It's about wellness culture. It's about pyramid schemes. Principally, it's about Brian, who is a bored werewolf working in a restaurant, transforming once a month, accidentally targeting joggers who've given him like snotty comments at his restaurant. And then he meets Tyler, this sort of werewolf wellness guru, and he sort of gets sucked into this sort of pyramid scheme, if you like. It's very funny. It's a satire on like modern culture, modern society, capitalism, using this idea of like being a werewolf to sort of satirize it. Fantastic book. Not as dark as some of the others I've read, but does contain murder and people getting mauled to death and a lot of blood. The ending sort of sets up for a sequel, but it sort of comes out of nowhere and it's sort of a bit cliched. But other than that, fantastic book, maybe the best book I've read this autumn, this fall. Comes highly recommended. Also from God's Word, I read Wereboys, another werewolf book. This is absolute trash. This is badly written. It's ham-fisted in the way it's been constructed. There is the faint mark of a template on the back cover. It is written by a guy called Wolf Hans. Jaymond joins the swim team. He's recruited into the swim team by the captain, Ricky, who's this like hot guy who's like really sexy and really sexual. And then it gets a bit darker because it turns out he's a bit of a... I was thinking this was going to be a horror book. I was thinking more along the lines this was going to be like more about like a teen wolf sort of sexy teen wolf, werewolf, horror, drama. There's not that much werewolves going on, it's more about the sex. But did I love it? Hell yeah. Turns out I'm into werewolf erotica. Who knew? Would I recommend this? No. And this actually is the reason I didn't read this as my holiday reading. So every month I receive a book from a subscription service called Bookbox. So this month they sent me God's Children Are Little Broken Things by Arinze Ifiakandu. They sent me The Iliac Crest by Christina Rivera Garza and Sedating Elaine by Dawn Winter. The one I liked most was The Iliac Crest. This is a translated work, translated by Sarah Booker. It's about an unnamed narrator who one night is visited by two women, a former lover and a stranger who turns out to be this writer called Amparo Davila. And it's kind of weird, it's kind of odd, it's kind of twisty and turny and kind of experimental in the way it's written. It's really good. I read this in one afternoon. It's really short as well. Again, the ending a bit confusing, but it's very nice, very enjoyable. It reminded me a bit of Italo Calvino and books like If on a Winter's Night a Traveller, and really enjoyed this, really properly got into this. However, I can't recommend Sedating Elaine, which is about Francis who gets into a relationship with a very annoying woman called Elaine. Elaine is the sort of person you just want to slap. Francis is terrible as well. Francis is not a likeable protagonist. She's really not likeable. She's a heavy drug user. She's whiny a bit. She gets herself into these things. You can tell I really didn't like this book because I'm not talking about it that enthusiastically. I don't want to say she deserves what she gets, but there's no consequences to her actions. There's no... She lies, she sedates Elaine, she's not a nice character, but there are no consequences, serious consequences to her actions, and that rubbed me up the wrong way. Plus, it says all over the book that it's like a riotous roller coaster of hilarity, a knockout debut, funny and winning, brutal, funny and genuinely shocking in places, darkly comic, hilarious, exhilarating, devastating. This book is not funny. It deals with some horrible, horrible things. Francis is a horrible character who does horrible things, and there are no consequences. I would say, out of all the books I've read the last 3 months, don't go near this one. And lastly, from the book box, a short story collection, God's Children Are Little Broken Things. This is about queer lives and loves in Nigeria. The problem is, all the stories are really formulaic. Reading 1 or 2, really good, really well written. But they're really formulaic and the same sort of stuff happens in each one. There are 2 men, they fall in love, their families find out, they have an argument, someone dies. They're pretty much all pretty much the same, and after the 3rd or 4th story, it kind of got a bit tiring, really. So quickly onto the last 3 books. This was a poetry collection, Maya Angelou, and Still I Rise. Liked a few of the poems in here, liked a lot of the poems in here. Bit of a mixed bag though. First Maya Angelou book I've actually read. Did enjoy it, did like it. Maybe I'll go to like one of her other books. Maybe. I hear they're quite good, so yeah, did like this little poetry collection. It's like I don't have many modern poetry collections in my poetry library, so this is like a nice addition to that. Oh god. In competition with Sedating Elaine for the worst book I've read this autumn, The Pyramid, William Golding. I love Lord of the Flies. I love The Spire. The Pyramid can go fuck itself. So lastly, a book I reread again for something else. Call Me By Your Name by Andre Ackerman. Oh, second read, still really loved this book about Oliver and Elio and their summer romance, their toxic, obsessive summer romance, flawed characters, a flawed protagonist who is desperate and needy and clingy and oh so good. So good. Onwards to winter then, what can we look forward to? Charles Dickens? Stephen King? Beyond that, the next Magnus Chase, the final Magnus Chase. I've got more Rick Riordan to read, but might save them for a while. Who knows beyond that?